Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Morning After Rolling with the Beer, where we discuss the board games that we played during game night. And today, Mike joins me.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Thanks for coming, Mike. First game we played is Lost Ruins of Arnak. Lost Ruins of Arnak is a worker placement deck building game. During their turn, players will be placing their workers on different spots in typical worker placement, but they will often have to pay a travel cost that is paid for by the cards in their personal deck. During the course of the game, players will have the opportunity to purchase new cards to add to their deck, hence the deck builder part.
This game is a game that has the multi-use cards, so you have the cards, they have boots and boats and cars.
Boots and cars
and boots. But those are what you use to place your workers, and it's a very tight worker placement part of the game because you only have 2 workers the entire game. And often I'll find myself with a handful of cards and no more workers left to play them with.
I sometimes try to cheat and pull my own extra meeples out of my pocket. What's that, a meeple in your pocket?
Wait a minute. Who is purple? Yeah, so over the course of the game, you can buy artifacts, you can buy items to help you in your adventure, dogs, binoculars. It's an exploration game.
Throughout the game, when players are exploring places, you have an opportunity to explore new undiscovered regions on the board, which add additional places for the players to place their worker. And you can defeat these guardians for extra points. However, if you don't defeat the guardians, you will gain a fear card, watering down your deck.
And causing every fear card is worth -1 point if you're not able to get them out of your deck by the end of the game.
Get out of my deck! Probably gonna edit that out.
Yeah. So I forget, Eric. We played this at 3 players.
We did.
Actually, we didn't have as many players this week, so that was different than past weeks here lately. But I can't remember who won this week. We played Lost Ruins.
You remember damn well who won.
I don't. Could you tell me again?
It was you.
Oh, that's right. It was me.
Yes.
I won. So this was my second time playing this game. First time I played it, I did not win. And there's kind of 2 main paths in the game you can take. There's the exploration piece where you're going out and discovering new locations and more areas for your workers to go. And then there's the research track where you're researching up your magnifying glass and your little notebook along the way. The first time I played it, I didn't focus on the research track as much and just did a lot of exploring, getting compasses, finding locations, fighting guardians, and fell short. So this time I focused on the research track. I don't know if it's overpowered, but it definitely seems like a much easier route to victory going up that research track versus exploring. I only explored 1 time the entire game this time.
That's funny you should mention that, because the last time I won this game, I focused solely on the research track as well, and only conquered and discovered maybe 2 new areas and conquered 2 guardians. And a friend of mine was off to a gaming night and they were playing this game, and I told him, I gave him a little pro tip. I said, focus on the research track, and he did the same thing and came out victorious as well. So I think it's a valid strategy if only one person is taking advantage of the research track. I think it's easy for them to run away with it.
That's true, because I was the only one that made it to the top of the research track, although Corey was pretty close to right behind me.
Yeah, he was.
I feel like the rewards you get for exploring new locations are really good, but it seems like it's a lot easier to go up the research track. And if you're the first one on each level, you also get more bonuses. So
yes,
I don't know. Overall, it's a great game. It is a lot of fun. I'd like to try it again and focus more on the exploration and see if I can see what happens. I have confidence in myself. I can do it. The second game we played this last weekend was Lorenzo Il Magnifico. Possibly the ugliest box cover, maybe one of the ugliest games ever made. The player boards in this game are hideous. So this is a dice worker placement game, I guess you'd call it.
Worker placement game fueled by dice?
Worker placement game fueled by dice.
No, it's a worker placement game where their assigned values are determined by a dice roll.
So on every turn, though, whoever's the starting player will roll 3 dice, and those 3 dice will assign essentially the pit value of your workers as they go out to the different locations. There are 4 different towers. Each tower contains a different type of either a building you can construct, goods you can manufacture, family members, I believe they're called, that you can recruit to come and help you, or just basically in-game victory points. We played this with 4 players.
Correct.
This game, it was really mathy. I did not win this one.
Who won this one? I don't recall.
I can only remember the person that got second place. No. Yeah, I don't remember.
I do. It was me.
It was Eric. It was really close. The game is very mathy. I did enjoy, even though you did win. I was close in second place, but what I really liked about this was that Gary was way behind at the end of the game, and the end game scoring brought him almost right back up with everybody else. So there's a lot of different paths to victory in this game. It could really lead to some analysis paralysis, I thought. Mm-hmm. We played with 4 players, and I felt like a lot of the turns, pretty much everybody spent a lot of time trying to figure out what it is they were going to do, especially towards the end when it was a lot of, I could go here, and this will cost me essentially 2 victory points, but I could pick up 3 victory points if I do it, or I could go here, I could take the Vatican action and go up on the military track, or I could do this and spend my military points, and that would cause me to go in second place on the military track, would lose blah 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 blah.
There is a staggering amount of options available in this game,
Which is really surprising because you only have 4 workers.
Yes.
4 workers and not a lot of places to really go.
And one of the workers has a designated value of 0, therefore making him essentially useless unless you have another resource to bump him up.
Assistance.
Yeah.
And again, you have to spend the assistance to make your worker not be worth 0, but the assistants are also worth points if you have them at the end of the game. So there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of decisions of basically spending victory points to try to get victory points, or get more victory points, or spend victory points to get resources to buy more buildings to get different victory points. But really a lot of options.
It's kind of an engine builder, and I would say that Wingspan probably got a lot of inspiration from Lorenzo Il Magnifico. As in both games you're buying cards that give you benefits and perks, and you're adding them into
I can kind of see that.
rows that activate and trigger, and you get like all of the... Yeah, it's like Wingspan with worker placement. Yeah,
except when you... In Wingspan, though, when you activate, say, the water row, every card activates regardless. In this game, depending on the value of your worker that you send out to activate that row, they may not activate every card. So some cards need a value 5 worker, and if you only have a value 4, that card will not trigger in that row.
Then just use an assistant.
Use the purple assistant. I know you normally don't talk about components much in your morning after videos, but the components in this one, I thought they were kind of, I don't know, I wasn't a fan of them.
Lacking.
They had wood. The wood resources looked like brown Pac-Mans. And they had giant meeples, giant assistants, and regular size assistants, but they were only like a millimeter larger. So it was just really difficult to see the difference in sizes between the smaller and the bigger resources. Except for the stones. Those boulders seemed to be much bigger. Mm-hmm. But everything else was kind of just barely bigger. So
the game has big stones.
The game has big stones.
Gigantic.
Little pebbles and big stones.
That's what it should be called. Little Pebbles, Big Stones.
I think Lorenzo Il Magnifico might actually be a tie-in for Little Pebbles, Big Stones.
I think it is. And the last game we played was Endless Pass, a Rolling with the Beard classic now, I guess. It seems to creep its way into the end of every game night. Probably because Gary. And he wins it every time.
He wins it every time I've played with him. I like this game. This is, I feel like, a perfect end of night game. You know, we've been playing for a long time. We have, you know, got to shut it down pretty soon in this game. 10, 15 minutes. And it's for a 10-15 minute game, it's really good. Like, I highly recommend Endless Pass if you're looking for a quick, easy card game. It's like $15, $17, and there's a lot of replay in there. I'm not very good at it for some reason. I think there's a lot of luck involved in this game.
There is a lot of luck in the game. During your turn, you have two options. You either hide, which really doesn't typically do you any good, or you draw cards from the Endless Pass. And in that Endless Pass, you find goodies. Most of the time, you find monsters, and you have to fight these monsters. Any monsters you defeat, you gain glory. Any monsters you don't defeat get passed to the player on your left, and it's up to them to handle them.
On top of any new monsters they draw.
Yes, so sometimes around the table, and it becomes quite humorous. There'll be this big horde of these monsters going around that could just squash any player. And this is one of the few games that has player elimination that I'm okay with.
Yeah, I mean, it's so quick. Player elimination in a 10-minute game, a luck in a 10-minute game it's just fun.
Yeah, there's two paths to victory: get to 10 victory points or glory points, or be the last man standing. I would say if it comes down to last man standing, it's usually a pretty quick wrap up. It's usually because there's a gigantic horde and somebody does play a card to hide instead of work the pass, just passing the buck, so to speak, to the next player to get ate by these monsters.
Yeah, it's actually not a bad strategy if you can get a horde big enough just to hide and then pass it along and everybody else is dead, but you don't have to worry about fighting them because by the time it gets back to you,
you're all dead.
Alive. I thought for sure the last game we played, I thought for sure I was going to win. I had 8 glory points so quickly. Everybody else had like 1 or 2, and I was like, I've got this. And my next 3 turns, my cards were nothing but hide or run away. Because in this game, the only way you can get victory points is from killing monsters, getting glory, or you could attack another Viking and steal their glory. But if you don't get the cards if you don't get any swords or Greek fire to throw somebody, there's nothing you can do. So everybody caught up, and then I died, and Gary won again.
Kill Gary. # kill Gary. Well, that concludes another episode of The Morning After Rolling with the Beard. If you found this entertaining at all, please consider subscribing and click that bell notification. Hey, Mike, how about a 2-player game of Coup?
This is going to be the roughest Morning After video you've made.
Not even close. And remember, that's the way the beard is stroked. Good night.
I'm not stroking your beard.